Hi, God bless you for joining me on another video. With all the turmoil that's going on in the world right now and in our country, I figure I would put out a video that would talk about the wars and rumors of wars and things going on in this country at the moment. So let's start the discussion with reading a bit from the Bible. We're going to read Matthew 24, verses 4 through 13. And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So I wanted to read that verse because it just seems like there's a storm on the horizon. You can't help but see it. Things have not been right, at least since the September 11th attacks back in the day. The world is steadily devolving. In our country, not only are we performing war in Brazil or Venezuela, whichever, it's Venezuela. Hard to keep up with everything. They're talking about doing something in Cuba. They're talking about taking something in Greenland. For an example here, we'll just go through some headlines here. Maduro's capture is beginning of the end for Cuba's regime, House Intelligence Chair says. How about this one? European allies working on plan if U.S. acts on acquiring Greenland. Or how about this one? Graham warns Iranian Ayatollah Trump is going to kill you if eternal crackdown continues. And we have the war going on in the Ukraine still. Here on the home front, we've got a civil war going on in this country right now that is being heavily ramped up from both sides of the political spectrum. And I don't really give a rat's behind about whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. My politics is God. In fact, they say here in this country that the Constitution gives you freedom. And I say I got a freedom that's better than that. I've got freedom through Jesus Christ. He's the one who set me free, and free indeed I am, because he is the truth, the way, and the life. So, nevertheless, we see all kinds of things that are on the horizon. This big storm is brewing. And eventually, what's going to happen in this country is that the opposing political party will take office. It's just a matter of how it goes. Some years you have a lot of Democrats win. Some years you have a lot of Republicans win. Either way, the country continues to lose and becomes more and more profane by the day. But the warning signs are there. For example, here's a news article from Fox News. Acosta, far-left podcaster, predicts Democrats will expand Supreme Court, prosecute Trump when they regain power. And there's lots of other things like that they're promising to do when they take power because they're not happy with the way things are going. And right now, we have an extreme amount of immigration enforcement, which is the federal government's purview. It's within their law to do, regardless of whether it's right or not, or how they're prosecuting it. Doesn't really matter. Fact of the matter is that they're doing it. And there's both sides willing to go to war over this particular issue. In fact, here we have an actor who I couldn't tell you who he is. It says sociopath Giancarlo Esposito willing to see 50 million other people die for his revolution. And this is, according to the article from Breitbart, this is a direct quote per the far left Variety. See, we got to put far left right in there. That way we're making sure we're screwing down both sides here. And these are the words of a narcissistic sociopath. Block quotes are Varieties. This is time for a revolution, and they don't even know that's what they're starting. We have to stand up to it. They can't take us all down. If the whole world showed up on Putin's doorstep or the Iranians' doorstep or in Washington, They'd kill 500 or 50 million or however many, but the rest of us would survive with a new world. Well, I guess that's certainly a viewpoint to have, but it goes further because not only is one side, frankly, both sides are jawing a lot about war and civil war and going to war. We have this, a nurse essentially threatening chemical warfare, medical warfare. Medical watchdog unloads on VCU after nurse fired for viral anti-ICE TikTok video suggesting drugging agents. So while I've read the article, I'm just not going to read the articles here. You can go and look it up for yourself. It's some kind of slow-acting paralytic or whatever, but how far down this path are they really going to go? I mean, if these kind of paralytics are going to be used against ICE agents, who's next? Do we start, euthanasia because your voting record or whatever? So it's wars, it's rumors of wars, and we've had some really violent things happen in this country that leans towards civil unrest, and things are going to get bad. Recently, within the past couple of weeks, there was some kind of riot or ICE action or whatever where one man was, in my opinion, essentially executed on the side of the road because who knows why. I think the gun that was taken off him misfired, and all the other agents, that were there simply heard the shot and decided to save their own necks, which, if I was in that position, I don't know that I would do differently. But I'm not trying to be political about it. I'm just saying it's bad all the way around. And you would hope that if this was the path that people were going to go down, that they would go ahead and maybe figure out a better way to do things where this kind of thing doesn't happen. So in the ensuing riots and protests and destruction and fights, here we have an officer, whether he's ICE or police or whatever, had his finger bitten off by these two beautiful specimens of people that were fighting him. The guy on the right looks pretty well haggard. The guy on the left, I'm just going to guess he's the one who bit the finger off, just given the smug look on his face. But this kind of non-caring attitude that people have for their fellow countrymen is really, really disturbing right now. And then we have this as a freeze frame from a dashboard video of a woman who attacked a Florida police officer, a state highway patrol person who got arrested for it. And you can see that she's smiling about it. She's happy to go to jail. And it makes you wonder just how far down the drain is the country that we live in. So we live in times that are just really uncertain. And while I've largely shown the so-called left side or Democrat side, it's not the only place where we see this kind of inhuman attitude towards people, where it seems like the country is really losing grasp of what makes us us. And I would maintain and posit that a lot of this comes from just a lack of God in people's lives or belief systems. We've walked so far away from God that surely judgment must be coming in some way. And so here's a thing I saw on Twitter. Obviously, this comes from the right side of the aisle, so-called, and that is this: how do you think ICE is doing in Minnesota? And the answer you can see is on your screen, and I just find it absolutely disgusting. It's appalling. My politics are God's politics. God says it's so, or says it's good. I believe it's so, and I believe it's good. My politics are framed in reference with the Bible. And beyond that, it's tripe I don't need to be involved in. But you can't help not get caught up in all of this. And despite all this arguing that's going on about immigration and whatever, we get this nice little article. Democrats and Republicans team up to slip stealthy amnesty into DHS funding bill as shutdown looms. So I guess the point of this video, for those of us who believe, is to believe that Christ is coming soon. Pray that it's so, because there's wars and rumors of wars, and the thing about that particular statement is that on one hand, while there's rumors of wars, China is going to invade Taiwan, and this, that, and the other, which may or may not happen. It's simply a rumor. The fact of the matter is, war is on the horizon, and it's palpable. It's going to be war here in the home front. It's going to be war in other countries. And so, what do you do during a time like this? The only thing you can really do is to know where your rock is and who your rock is. And that should be the Lord Jesus Christ. He's your rock and your salvation. Everything else that's out there right now, whether it's a political belief system on one side of the aisle or the other, is merely building a house on sand. A house that's secure is built on rock. It's built on good land. And the only good land that's out there is the Lord Jesus Christ. So, while there's wars and rumors of wars and bad things that look like they're coming, you shouldn't be afraid. We should have no fear whatsoever at all. Christ will see us through. It may not be in the way that we like or the way that we want, but Christ will see us through. He is our rock and our salvation. And I guess in closing, I would like to remind you all, don't be like the foolish virgins who knew the master was coming but didn't have the oil. And that is to say, we know bad things are coming. We know that there's wars out there. There's going to be war here and all of that junk. So be like the wise virgins and get the oil. Get some extra food. Get the things that you need to survive some of the things that are going to be coming up. And maybe get a little bit of extra so that you can help your neighbor or people who are in need. Because some of the foolish virgins out there are going to need help, and you should help them. I'm not saying you should give everybody everything you got and suffer on your own, but certainly having a little bit of extra is a good way to go. If you got animals, you might want to have a little bit more food for them, just in case things get really bumpy, that sort of thing. And most importantly, keep praying. Pray that all this stuff blows over and people come to some sort of common sense, if it can be found anymore. And keep praying to God. Pray that Jesus comes back soon. I mean, honestly, I pray that Jesus comes before this video is even done recording or before it's uploaded, before you've even clicked play on it. That would be fine by me. I can't wait to see his face. So, in closing, I'm going to play a warning that was given back in the 1960s from an old radio broadcaster who wasn't old at the time, but he was when I found out about him much later on. Paul Harvey. That's a 1960s message that I think is very apropos and you'll be interested in. So we'll close out the video with that. God bless you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
If I were the devil, if I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree, thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion. and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a nut. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. What'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing. Paul Harvey. Good day.